Pink door doesn't look like much from the outside. Just a splash of color on a brick wall, a doorway you could walk past 100 times without noticing. But the moment you step inside, the air changes. It's warm, low lit, humming with conversation and clinking glasses, like the whole place is holding its breath between acts. You make your way towards the back, past the glow of the dining room and the soft spill of light from the stage. There's a staircase tucked away behind a curtain, narrow, wooden, older than anything upstairs. You start down, one hand on the railing. Halfway to the bottom, you hear it, a single step behind you, slow, deliberate, like someone descending the stairs in heels. You turn expecting to see someone there, a server, a performer, anyone. But the staircase is empty. The curtain at the top hasn't moved. You keep going, a little faster now. At the bottom, the hallway is lit and quiet, lined with mirrors and dressing room doors. You catch your breath, glance at your reflection, and for just a moment, there's someone standing behind you in the glass. A woman in a long dress, dark hair, head tilted like she's waiting for her cue. You spin around. No one's there. Just the hum of the building settling and the faintest trace of perfume drifting through the hallway. Welcome back to Haunts of the Pacific Northwest. I'm Kevin, and today we're staying right here in Post Alley, moving just a little farther north to a place that feels equal parts hidden, theatrical, and quietly unsettling. The Pink Door is known for its food, its cabaret shows, and that unmistakable sense of stepping into another world the moment you walk through it. But behind the curtain, down the stairs, and in the dim hallways beneath the restaurant, there are stories that don't make it onto the menu. Stories from performers, staff, and people who've spent time in the spaces most guests never see. And once you hear them, it's hard to look at this place the same way again. Pink Door opened in 1981, but the building it occupies goes back much farther. Like most of Post Alley, this stretch was shaped long before the market became the market. Back when the waterfront was rougher, the streets were uneven, and the businesses here were a mix of taverns, storage rooms, and places people didn't always talk about openly. The brickwork, the narrow hallways, even the old wooden stairs leading down to the dressing room all come from that earlier era. When the pink door moved in, it didn't try to hide the age of the place. If anything, it leaned into it. The dim lighting, the cabaret stage, the tucked away corners that feel like they've seen more than they let on. Over the years, the restaurant became known for its performances burlesque, trapeze acts, live music, and the kind of late night energy that makes the whole building feel alive. But beneath the dining room and the glow of the stage, the basement level stayed almost exactly as it had been for decades. The dressing rooms, the storage areas, the narrow hallways, they're reminders of the building's past life, long before the pink door ever appeared on the alley wall. And it's down there, in those older spaces, where most of the stories come from. Not dramatic events or documented tragedies, but small, persistent moments that make people stop and wonder who else might still be sharing the space. Most of the stories from the Pink Door don't come from the dining room or the bar. They come from the places most guests never see: the stairwell, the dressing rooms, and the basement level beneath the restaurant. And the people who talk about them aren't thrill seekers or ghost hunters. They're performers, servers, and staff who've spent long nights in the quieter parts of the building. One of the most common reports is the woman on the stairs. She's described as wearing a long dress, dark hair, old fashioned clothing, not theatrical, not part of a show, just out of time. People see her for a moment on the staircase that leads down to the dressing rooms. She doesn't move, doesn't speak. She just stands there, like she's waiting for her cue. And when you blink, she's gone. Down in the dressing rooms, the stories get even more personal. Performers talk about humming behind them while they're getting ready, or the feeling of someone standing close when the room is empty. A few have mentioned seeing a figure in the mirror, just for a second, that disappears when they turn around. Others describe a warm hand on their shoulder before a show, like someone offering encouragement from a different era. After hours, when the restaurant is closed and the building settles into that deep late night quiet, staff hear footsteps on the wooden stairs, slow, deliberate, like someone descending in heels. They'll check the stairwell, the hallway, the dressing rooms, nothing. Just the sound of someone who isn't there making their way down the steps. And then there's the basement. It's older than the restaurant itself, and it feels like it. People describe a heavy, watching presence down there. Not threatening, just aware, like someone else is sharing the space with you, even if you can't see them. There's a cold spot in the back hallway that never goes away, no matter the season. Performers say it feels like someone brushes past them, walking in the opposite direction. None of these stories are dramatic. There's no single event or tragedy that explains them, but they're consistent. They come from people who don't know each other, who worked here years apart, who have no reason to compare notes, and they all point to the same thing. Something in the pink door's older spaces hasn't quite left. I've been to the pink door a few times, and I've always loved the energy upstairs. The warmth, the noise, the feeling that the whole place is in on some secret. But the first time I went downstairs, it felt different. Not bad, not threatening, just different. The air gets cooler, the lighting drops, and the sounds from the dining room fade into the soft, distant hum. It's a kind of space where you catch yourself glancing over your shoulder without really knowing why. I didn't see anything down there, but I felt that same sense of being watched that so many people talk about. Not in a paranoid way, more like someone else was sharing the hallway with me, just out of sight. And when I passed that cold spot near the dressing rooms, I stopped for a second because it didn't make sense. It wasn't drafty, there wasn't a vent, it was just cold, still, like the air hadn't moved in a long time. What struck me most wasn't fear, it was curiosity. The building feels layered, like every performer, every late night shift. What struck me most wasn't fear, it was curiosity. The building feels layered, like every performer, every late night shift, every quiet moment backstage has left something behind. And whether you believe in ghosts or not, it's hard to stand in those hallways and not feel the weight of all those stories that came before you. That's the Pink Door, a place where food, the music, and the performances take center stage. But the real stories linger in the spaces most people never see. Whether it's a woman on the stairs, a whisper in the dressing room, or just that unmistakable feeling of being watched. Something in this building seems to hold on to its past. Maybe it's the history, maybe it's the energy of decades of performers moving through those hallways, or maybe some places just don't empty out when the lights go down. Thanks for joining me on this stop along Post Alley. I'm Kevin, and this has been Haunts of the Pacific Northwest. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and if you ever find yourself backstage at the Pink Door, maybe don't look at the mirror too long.